sanitize that a little.
Call the Planning, Zoning, Building Committee meeting to order. Roll call.
Alderman Art Woods.
Here.
Alderman Curielli.
Here.
Alderman Messina.
Here.
Alderman Carr.
Here.
Alderman Sismarski.
Here.
Alderwoman Ames.
Here.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Here.
Alderman Catalano.
Here.
All present. The approval of minutes of the meetings for April 24th, 2025. Planning, Zoning, Building Committee minute.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Art Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Curielli.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames.
Yes.
And Alderman Artie Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Motion carried. I have two reports, Mayor. One is text amendment to Chapter 13 and 17, the map amendment rezoning and lot consolidation of Wooddale Park District at 1051 North Prospect Avenue. That's my motion.
Second.
Ms. Springer.
I'm happy to give a presentation.
All right.
So this is a request by the Wooddale Park District, who is represented this evening here in the audience by John Marquardt, the Executive Director. And I believe there's a board member here, and there's also a representative from the sign company. So this is a request to allow a second community landmark sign in the city. And in order to allow that, it will require a text amendment to the sign code to allow a second community sign in the city, because only one is allowed per code. A map amendment or rezoning from R1 to I1 to allow the property owner to seek approval of a permit from IDOT for an off-premise sign. A text amendment to the table of permitted uses to allow golf courses in I-1 as a special use, site plan review, and a plat of consolidation. So I think everybody's familiar with the property. It's about 62 acres at the intersection of I-390 and Prospect Avenue. It's improved with a golf course, a clubhouse, a driving range, and a mini golf area that is not currently in use. And there's surface parking there is about 330 spaces, and it's owned by the Park District. It is currently zoned R1, and the proposal is to rezone that to I1. That's not an issue from a spot zoning perspective because the site is very large, number one, but also because it's very close to I1 Industrial District to the east, and of course on the south side of I-390. So regarding the request, the petitioner is requesting that rezoning from R1 to I1, and that really is driven by IDOT's requirement that properties have to be industrially zoned in order to be eligible to obtain a sign permit in their right-of-way. So it has to be industrial, or the Park District can't even request IDOT's approval for a sign. For the text amendments, once that property is rezoned, it's necessary to add golf course as a special use in I-1, because currently it's not listed at all as either a permitted use or a special use. There is an existing special use approval for the property that was granted in 2006 to allow a golf course with a commercially operated driving range. That special use remains in place, so we don't have to grant a new special use. The other text amendment is, like I said, to allow a second community landmark sign. And the third is to increase the maximum allowable height from 60 feet to 70 feet. That's because the difference in height between Thorndale and I-390, it's a greater distance, it's higher. And in order to get the sign high enough for motorists to view it, you have to actually make the sign a little bit higher. So the proposed improvements for the site are really nothing is going to change on the site. The operations that are existing will continue to exist and operate. The unused miniature golf area is going to be removed and restored. The Park District was planning on that this year. And we brought attention to it because this sign is going to be located adjacent to it, and it obviously brings more attention to the fact that it's in need of maintenance. The landmark sign will be installed in that southwest corner of the lot near the detention area and close to the mini golf course. The CDC held a public hearing on April 21st, and they did recommend approval by a vote of 6-0. And there are some recommended conditions. The first relates to that mini golf area, as I mentioned, that they can't proceed unless they get all the state required permits and approvals, and that they must continually maintain the landscaping that's required at the base of the sign. That's our typical ordinance for, or condition for any type of development that involves landscaping. After that, as we step aside from that, the code does require that the design of the sign be approved by the Streetscape Committee. Now, last time, when the first community sign came through, the City Council was very involved in the design of the sign and how it would look. So they waived sending it to the Streetscape Committee because the City Council was approving the design. So once we get a recommendation on the sign itself and the recommended zoning entitlements for tonight, we'll also ask you whether you'd like it to send it to Streetscape before they are allowed to obtain a building permit. Again, the sign looks very much like the one that we previously approved, so it's probably not necessary, but we want to make sure that we're on the same page with the City Council. And that is it for my presentation. I can answer any questions, but as soon as we're done with questions for me, I will turn it over to the Park District, and they do have a short slide presentation as well.
Questions? Alderman Woods?
What was the reasoning behind them forcing them to remove the mini golf course before starting? I get the long-term removing it, but why is that a requirement
It's
before?
really not necessary as a condition. They were planning on doing it anyways. We were going to tie it to this approval because we didn't want it to remain and be kind of an eyesore next to the new sign. But we can make it any date or no date.
Alderman Kill?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a motion.
Oh, okay. What was that?
Alderman Curley?
I didn't hear.
Are we approving the sign, design of the sign tonight, or just the text amendment to allow having the sign?
What's in front of you is the zoning entitlements. All wrapped into that is the design of the sign, because you're approving the attachments to their requests, which does include the visual of the sign. Now, if you would like to send that to Streetscape, you can just indicate that you're not approving the design of the sign, and you can send it to Streetscape, and that would need to come back to City Council after it goes to Streetscape for final design approval.
Alderwoman Ames?
So the difference between this sign for the Park District and the existing sign for the city, from what I could tell from the pictures, is just the little plaque on the bottom. The one is just the city logo, and this is just the Park District. So is the sign itself the same, and it's just that logo difference, or is there some other difference?
That is probably the only difference that you'll notice. I don't know if the dimensions are exactly the same. They are exactly the same. The City of Wooddale across the top is exactly the same. The difference is we entered into a contract with the sign company, and they pay the city revenue resulting from the use of the sign for the next 20 years. And because this is on Park District property, they've entered into a revenue agreement or a cost, sharing agreement with the Park District, and they will gain the revenue. This sign will allow both Park District and city messages to be displayed in addition to advertising messages.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Curley?
So the reason for the logo being the Park District is because it's on their property?
It's at some point, they need to be recognized since it is their property. If you have comments and you want both of them, or you don't want any, I mean, that's something you can discuss, but that's the way it's currently proposed.
If we did a third sign, for example, on Wooddale Road, at the gas station, we would put Shell Station or Marathon as the logo sign, because it's on their property?
It's on, the other logo is city, and it is on private property,
Right.
Prologis. And that is entirely up to the city council when you approve it.
Why wouldn't we want to have the city logo instead of the Park District? I mean, the Park District logo is not very clear.
That is up to the council if you want to propose the change.
Mayor?
So as far as these signs go, there's basically the language only allows the one that we have.
Right.
Purposely. And here, I take it that we've made same type of stipulations, so not everybody can come up, otherwise you're going to have everybody on 390 over there wanting their own sign. So this is just going to be the Park District. It's their sign. They should have their logo. We have our name up on the top. It basically looks the same to our sign. Honestly, the Park District logo, it's their property. Let them have it.
Alderman Messina?
Yeah, I would agree. I think Alderman Catalano, you brought this up a long time ago. Like, we're not commercial. We're not going to have a commercial use where a business could do this, but like, this is a municipality, a taxing body. I don't know about you guys, but my residents don't know the difference. They still think I'm the one to blame for fire, school, everything. They don't know the difference. So to me, this is another taxing body that we're working with. They own the property. To the mayor's point, our name is still there. And in my opinion, that's collaboration. Like, I think residents would be thrilled to see two taxing bodies working together. So we might as well acknowledge it. And honestly, the logo's pretty nice to me. So I'll take a full photo.
And actually,
Thank you.
and actually, they're both entryway signs. As soon as 490 hooks up to 390, we will have the only two signs up,
Yeah, right.
so.
Can I just,
Yeah.
but the stipulation still is not commercial, so we'll never have, like, no offense, just a Weigel Tools, like, that's never going to be our intention. It's a taxing body. Is that accurate to say? Like, the way that we're rewriting this is, we're not opening ourselves up for another, a commercial entity, like I hope I'm okay to say this, like a Nippon or anybody on that stretch to come to us. Is that accurate?
That can be a policy of the city council or your preference. The way the code reads is you're only allowed two, and these are the exact two that are located there.
Great.
When the first one came up, I think the council said that is going to be the only one in town, no more. We're changing it to be two. If the council at the time wished to change it to be three, I suppose you could, but, if that's the direction, then we can steer, we would communicate that to any businesses that request.
Mayor?
Yeah, the other thing is here, we're doing the cost share with the sign company on ours. This is their property, they're doing the cost share. We're not taking anything from the Park District. It's working together.
Mr. Curley?
For the first sign, did the city initiate that, or was that initiated by the business at that location?
I was not here for that. I would imagine the sign company was very involved in bringing that forward to the city.
Any other questions? We need a roll call for this?
We have
Oh.
a presentation.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
If
Go
you
ahead.
would like it.
Go ahead. Nope.
Okay.
John Markward, Wooddale Park District. I'm going to be short and sweet because I really don't know the particulars and the intricacies of a landmark sign, so that's why I brought Rob here to give you a full presentation, but I just wanted to say thank you for considering this sign. I think it's a very important way to capture both elements of 390 entering into the city in both ends, as well as sort of highlighting our partnership together with the city and the Park District. So I just want to say thank you. And with that, I will introduce Rob from Premier Media.
Thank you, guys, and good to see a lot of familiar faces. At this point, we are very much part of the community and part of the city here with sign number 1. We addressed a lot of the questions that are in this presentation already. The questions that we already got to is half of the deck here, right? So I don't want to go into too much time. But the reason why these slides will look very, very familiar to you is because they're the same slides that we talked about as we engaged in conversations back in 2021. These 3 logos at the bottom is when we talked about, well, it was your sign. It's an extension of the city. So you could experience marketing opportunities as we've done very, very well with Janelle and team. We are constantly in communication with you guys. This is an extension of what you put out to the community, and you guys use that sign often, right? So right now, they would have that same opportunity. You still would, but they would also be able to advertise, hey, we have a fundraiser happening here at 390, right? Hey, we have a senior bus trip that's leaving from 390 and going here. Hey, we're hiring students to do lifeguarding at the pool, right? It's just to promote the business that is there. So I obviously wholeheartedly agree that that little small piece, that little logo, it's not just a logo. It's promoting the content that can also go on the sign, goes with the logo, right? But you guys are loud and proud at the top, right? We can skip through this, you know it's there. This is just a super quick snip of how it's being used right now. And again, we talk on the weekly, okay? On the weekly. And again, we're happy to be a part of the Prairie Fest again. We're running ad contents on that. I'm gonna be here in a few weeks. But we're also doing normal things like just shop, dine, and eat in Wooddale, right? So it's just being used very, very frequently. If we go through, we've already talked about where this is. We've already gone through that. The positioning of the sign strategically is very...
Oops, sorry.
That's okay, no, quite all right. Very thoughtful in the fact that from a land disturbance standpoint, we're only talking about 4 feet in diameter here, right? So we wanted to push this so it's not disrupting anything, even from a retention basin standpoint. We put that pole above the high water line. Like, we got really, really into where this thing could be placed. We obviously wanted it to be as close as possible as to 390, right? Not necessarily Thorndale, but 390, that's the viewing angle, and that goes into, we talked about the logo. The street view on the next slide is critically important because we are asking for your consideration in that extra 10 feet. Why? Why do you need 10 feet? Well, you need 10 feet because if you look at the original location, you're on an upswing of the overpass, right? Over at the Prologis site, you're on that upswing. There's about 15 to 16 feet there. Here, you're at the peak. You're at the peak. Perpendicularly, you're at the peak. So that extra 10 feet matters from a motorist standpoint. So all we're asking is just 10 more feet in column, really, right? So 10 more feet in column to get that same viewer experience like the next slide shows, and it will sit kind of very similar to the way the other one is sitting right now. Not super high in the air, not looking like a ground monument from your eye. There's enough space there to say, hey, logo, sign, touchscreen.
It's okay.
Is this a touchscreen? That's fantastic. The revenue component, not that it's particularly important to you, but it's very impactful. You know, John and I spent a lot of time talking about this, right? It's impactful, right? This is going to be for 25 years. We have a land lease with the Park District, and it's funds that are going to be utilized for their daily operations, right? Not to mention the component here, that's the intangible, which is the free advertising they get as well. There's dollars to that as well. So our proposal, when we first started talking, our proposal was a $1.5 million proposal to the Park District, right? And the reason why this came up too, and I just would be remiss if I didn't mention, you're a gateway. This is a gateway on the O'Hare side. It's a gateway on the Itasca side. And what's interesting is you have a floating parcel there. You have a floating parcel that's surrounded by Itasca. What better way to show people that it's not Itasca? This is us, right? This is Wooddale, right? So you're catching people heading eastbound, and then you're catching people heading westbound. The same similar design, right? And again, we cover all the costs, so $0 outlaid from your perspective or from your perspective. And then we just kind of wrap up. Let's see, I think there was one more slide, or maybe not. And that was pretty much it. So it's really just your consideration of the aesthetic of the sign, but really, you know, working with the Park District and allowing them to benefit as you guys are benefiting.
Alderman Messina.
just wanted to add something. So I had a couple conversations prior to this with other elected officials in other towns, and I'll say this, I think we have like a major opportunity here. For whatever reason, you have Itasca's not doing their 4th of July parade, or their 4th of July fireworks and all that. So you have people up in arms in that town being like, what are y'all doing? What can we do? Good opportunity with that. You have, keep it vague, but the parent company or the company at one point, not Parlay, has had a lot of issues. I have multiple friends that refuse to go to the Schaumburg property, Topgolf, because it's slammed. And so for them, Parlay is a perfect fit. And I think personally, it's a good fit for engagement. Like, this is your opportunity. Sorry, we're not helping you pay for it, but good opportunity for you all to like capture, I would call it capture market share. Because they're struggling to the west. And I can tell you that people are starting to realize I'm an avid golfer, like I need to get in and get out at lunchtime. I'm not dealing with that. And then you go south to some of the other suburbs, they have their own crime problems happening, which is very loud and clear, right? So like we have you all have an awesome opportunity, as do we. So I hope this should be a no-brainer.
Anything else, Rob? All good? So you just want a roll call then? Roll call.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames. Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Currielli.
Yes.
And Alderman Art Woods.
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, I have a community park, the final master site plan, and a presentation from Upland Design. Ms. Springer?
Thank you, Chairman Sismarski. So this is the master plan review. We're all very familiar with this project, I think. I am going to take you on a really brief summary of where we've been and how we got here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Maria Blood, and she's going to walk you through the slide presentation. We do have some specific things we would like to get recommendation and guidance on this evening, and those are at the end of the presentation. So I did want to let you know that we've been working on this for a year. Back a year ago in June 13th, the PZB, this group, I brought to you a list of kind of what types of elements would you like in this park. We took a look at the vision plan from 2014, and you came up with the list of what you'd like to see in the park. Then in September, we reviewed the 7 consultant proposals we received, and Upland Design was selected. In November, we brought forward their contract. Now, their proposal included all those elements that were selected and that the PZB wanted included in the plan. And so that's what they prepared. In February, they presented the 3 concept plans that, that we all looked at. And it went to the Streetscape Committee for review and comment. It went to the PZB for review and comment. And identified preferred elements were selected at both. And then we took it to the open house. We had quite a few people there. We got over 100 survey responses. And that brings us to the last time we're at PZB here was in March. And with all that feedback from all of those meetings related to the 3 plans, basically, they had prepared a final draft plan for your consideration. The price tag for that was about $13 or $14 million. And so, given that we had budgeted $3 million over a 3-year period, there was a little bit of a disconnect. So we went through a cost reduction exercise, I'll call it. Where we walked through some of the things that we could do to reduce the costs. Everybody was given a sheet, everybody voted, and then we came up with another final plan. And as you will see, as Maria walks you through the site plan, your reductions resulted in a reduction down to about $10 million. So from 14 to 10. We're still a little bit far from what we can probably afford. And so we'll walk you through some options on how we might get to a point where we can, accommodate the project. and we'll regroup. I'll jump back into the presentation towards the end and regroup and kind of walk you through, hey, what if we did this or this, and get your feedback and input. So I'm going to turn it over to Maria, and she is going to take over for a number of the next slides.
All right. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you, Stacy, for setting me up with kind of the background of where we're at today. So today we're going to go through kind of from where we last left off, our current master plan. We'll go through kind of the site plan and cost reduction from our last meeting, our draft final master plan, kind of go through our special event use because that was really the goal. How are we going to use this for our special events? A brief summary on our events management group, streetscape recommendations, and streetscape committee recommendations, and how we got here today. And then towards the end, we'll talk about that cost estimate and potential phasing to make this a reality. All right, so last time we spoke, we were given the different plan elements. Here are the final master plan elements as we discussed in the initial master plan recommendation. Concept A, the Prairie Promenade, was the preferred option to move forward with, along with the pathway design and Concept A. Concept A seemed to kind of rise to the top for most of these elements. And Concept C as well for the amphitheater pavilion. That's where we are merging the interior space with the outdoor space and creating that a little bit more. So you'll see that coming up. Lawn seating, the more the better, was certainly the preference. Shade structure of A, again, that prairie style aesthetic that Wooddale truly does hold near and dear throughout. Parking, we did talk about that we would add some additional parking to the space, but not overwhelm the entire property. Food trucks was also a consideration with potentially 21 vehicles on site, but tents was the other counterpart, having pop-up tents for other than, different types of vendors, different types of events, making it a little bit more flexible in future programming. And then the unique design features were the ice rink, picnic area, the formal garden, and the tree walk rose towards the top. Our playground was, again, Concept A was favored, and then a game area with bags, hopscotch horseshoe, four-square ping pong, and concrete game table. Those were kind of the programmatic elements in the initial master plan recommendation. So we took that and presented it to you guys in March. That was the plan that we had presented. We went through that cost exercise, as Stacy had mentioned, and these were kind of the votes that kind of flushed out of that. So the amphitheater pavilion, we were all in favor of our 4 votes were as shown. The entry gardens, it was favored 4 votes to remove half of those entry gardens at the beginning. Loop trail paths, making it just standard concrete was the preferred option. Trying to tick down the price tag a little bit. Paved vendor path, keeping that as shown. So instead of tearing up our lawns after the event, making sure that there's wide enough for both pedestrian and vendor space. Our shade, shelter, and seating as shown, that medium-sized shelter instead of an add of a larger shelter or an alternate space. The winter ice rink, that was decided last time to remove that.
That's a huge miss.
Question.
Alderman Carielli?
Yeah, there were 4 votes for ice rink and 4 against, but you took it out. Any particular reason?
As we kind of go further down, it comes really down to cost. And we were in talking with staff, it really just came down to budget and useful days. So when we talk about a refrigerated system versus a natural ice rink and then staff to maintain that and get that set up, unfortunately, there's not a lot of, like when you look at other cities or park district, other municipality operations that use natural ice rinks, you get about 11 days maybe out of the year that are usable for revenue. So it really just came down to that for a cost consideration.
But that would,
Follow?
that would depend whether it's a refrigerated ice rink or not, correct? I mean, if it's just a natural ice, there's perhaps limited use, but if it's refrigerated rink, it could be open much longer period of time, correct?
Correct, yes.
We're looking into the park district sharing the ice rink with us?
I know that the plan initially was shared with the Park District. I don't think those conversations were had at this stage.
Alderman Messina?
I think also about the ice rink, like, do we have that's the biggest miss. I mean, in my opinion, you might as well not even do it. I mean, everywhere I saw and all the things I sent you guys when I was traveling, that ice rink was critical. And when I'm there in the winter, I mean, it transformed the tree lighting. You had people on the ice. Like, our problem is we can't get people, we can get people here in the summer, no problem. I don't need anybody to promote. I need people here at 360. So to remove the ice rink, to me, is a huge miss for as little impact as that is. That's one vehicle in the fleet maintenance. Sorry, Alan.
Top choice of the residents and surveys.
Thank you, yeah. And it also was one of the top choices, yeah, right, that our residents wanted. Like, to me, that, unless that number was the 400 and whatever, the Garden, 492, that was a no-brainer for me, but that ice rink brought a completely different element that we just don't have here. So, thanks. Just wanted to piggyback off of what Mike said, Alderman Currielli said.
Alderman Woods?
I have a number of questions. How many people were included in the voting here? 8, 7 people, 6? Some have 5 votes total, some are 6 votes total, some are 7, one is 8. Were there 9, 10? How many was the?
One next to it.
This went directly to PZB, so as we were tallying things up, that's how.
And that was the night of that presentation, right? So
Correct.
we filled out the sheets.
70 by 150.
Everybody in?
So maybe everybody didn't vote?
Ms. Springer?
Yes, we did get a survey from everyone.
Okay.
And some people refused to answer some.
Next to it.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
So-
That's-
Oh, option.
That answers the question.
Okay.
I'm like, so everybody's really excited about this, but nobody cared about that, and that. That kind of backs up what Alderman Messina was saying.
All right, I'm going to continue.
Okay.
All right. The other items that were discussed were the restroom building, a custom versus a prefabricated restroom. Prefab was a cost savings, so the majority was in favor of that. The playground, that rubber, poured-in-place rubber unitary surfacing was the preferred option versus an engineered wood fiber mulch surfacing. The playground installation, that's where we started, talking about different avenues of funding outside of city funds. Seeking a grant through Kaboom for the installation of that was a savings. Everyone was in favor, but we did see I'm going to call it a custom vote to remove the playground completely. Overall, the game area, that was favored to keep the overhead fabric shade as shown in the space itself. The formal garden was favored to remove completely. And then removals of the existing pavement, again, is a cost savings, utilizing some of the staff that you have to remove some of the elements that are already on site, like the gravel and pavement and such. So you could see kind of where we landed in the next iteration of the plan. And that's what you see up on the screen right here. So you could see up at the top.
It doesn't really work.
Okay. Let me know if I'm not speaking loud enough, but if you can see over here, you can see the formal garden was removed completely. That was one of the items. Everything else is shut down the native areas as well, so you'll see a reduction in about 50% of the landscape overall, because that was conversation as well. The parking lot, even though that was a conversation to have that many spaces, this lawn space here that the formal gardens were moved out of, can certainly give those opportunities for future expansion, because I know parking lot expansion was a consideration for future, as well as the area for the ice rink specifically, that is also, the space is still there for it to happen. You know, considering all the comments that we received, we didn't want to just take over those spaces and allow for future improvements. Yeah, yes, yep. All right, here's that blow up on the west side and the east side. All right, so the amphitheater was another one that was discussed itself. This one was recommended, or it was desired to combine both Concept A, the promenade, but Concept C of that enclosed multi-season space. So that's what we had achieved in this plan. You could see the renderings here. Where the space is opened, the stage is fully covered. That was a desire. And then over time, you could see on the side, the partitions do close as a glass wall for multi-season use. In the current amphitheater plan view, you could see on the left-hand side, our catering green room with one toilet use for performers. We have our gallery space in the back for setup, and, you know, as the next band sets up, you know, they could switch their equipment, or for all their boxes and things that they have everything. And then on the right-hand side, you can see mechanical or janitorial and storage space. You can never have enough storage. Oh, going back real quick to some of the highlights on the top left. The capacity or community room itself is about 950 square feet. When it's fully enclosed, that's right where that logo is, that space alone. And the capacity varies based on if it's a small group standing or seated orientation. So in a lecture format, rows of about 70 to 80 chairs, tables and chairs, about 50 people, or if you do yoga Pilates kind of programming event, about 20. So that kind of gives you the scale of that space. Here's another view of that stage, and with it closed. This is on the back side, along the side of Commercial Street on the north-hand side, where it offers up that drop-in use space when there aren't concerts going on, you know, small group events. You could also, beyond just the building and that promenade space, certainly that will attract views as you're going north-south. But an entry walkway or some sort of signage along the road would also be a welcoming factor. Some sort of overhead archway that would be custom, that would pull in more of that prairie style and visible along Wooddale Road. The planting beds themselves would be more prairie aesthetic in general. That was kind of preferred. Again, in this iteration, we did reduce the amount of plantings as those were comments as we were getting to this stage. Other things that were considered are entryways and the drop-off area. So as bands are prepping for, you know, getting all their equipment and or those who have more mobility issues, we did have a drop-off area on the west side of the site. That gives you that nice access to get directly to the amphitheater space and the open lawn seating area. That would be designated specifically as a no parking area. So it's just purely drop-off. Other things that we discussed were a loop trail path. You could see in the red would be the main access path, culminating to the center of our statement, evergreen statement tree, our holiday tree. And then on a portion of that, you could see in more of the magenta color of the vendor corridor. So where we would introduce more trucks, or where that path was a little bit wider, for vendors to set up and still allow for pedestrians to walk freely and not feel too enclosed. And then secondary pathways being the blue, so making sure that there's enough walking. Walking is one of the most recreational favorite pastimes in all of the US. When studies are out, people like their walking loops. So that's why it's important when you connect all these elements within a site like this that you create that extra added recreational component for beyond just event space for people that just want to get in their miles. Other things, I like to call this our VIP area for special events, but our shade shelter and seating that gives that view to the amphitheater space itself. It's set up as a 24 by 44 shelter, so about 20 to 45 people. It would have charming catenary lighting around the plaza itself, and then this is one of the locations as a possible sculpture space for, #WD. Our picnic area here is in line with our holiday tree and our wider pathway. So where vendors are currently situated along here and along there, you see that double wide. We have additional permanent picnic tables that kind of flank that end and where we get into our game space and our playground space. So an alley of trees and fixed tables certainly can be expanded for event space. Our restroom building here, this is one of a prefabricated restroom building itself. There's various different configurations. This is just one. Once we get into more design development of this phase, we can adjust as needed. That was one thing that we heard. The more permanent restrooms was preferred. But we certainly have a utility chase, and then in this configuration, there are 4 total restrooms. And then certainly the palette would start pulling in throughout the site to make it cohesive. The playground itself, this is the one that was the preferred selected among all of the, between PBZ, Streetscape, and the community members. This one rose to the top. It would be that rubber surfacing like I talked about, and different areas for both 2 to 5 and 5 to 12-year-olds. Our game area, as I mentioned earlier, would have that shade up top to add more comfort. If you add more shade, people tend to stay longer so they're not in the sun. But different gaming activities. This is where it tends to be more multi-generational, or it can be, with game tables or a ping pong table, and it's right adjacent to the playground. So you start interacting with, maybe you have little ones, maybe you have teens, maybe grandma wants to interact with them. It all becomes more of a cohesive space. On the other side of that shade structure, we're also introducing bags and horseshoe and a nature hopscotch area. Stormwater detention, we're not going to be able to get away from not doing it because we're adding impervious onto the site. But what we can do is make it, beautify it. It doesn't need to be just a lawn basin, but what we can do is bring in that prairie aesthetic and create a seating area in the middle of it. Make it a place that you want to sit versus just a space that you don't want to see. So adding native plants would also fulfill our detention stormwater requirements, and ornamental trees and things like that will bring people back season after season. The tree walk themselves, because there's a little bit of distance, because we have this long linear stretch, we have the tree walk flanking either side of our playground and game area, and passive seating detention pollinator area. You can see in this graphic here, the lawn being the green, our yellow being our prairie, and then where we have our tree canopy outlined, and our ornamental tree and holiday tree. And just a spattering of images of the vision of how we want this space. Like you guys saw before, this was the preferred asphalt parking lot configuration with a drop-off area on the east end. About 65 total spaces as a 90-degree parking stall, 3 ADA. In the top graphic, you can also see additional parking that will be needed for events because you'll have way more than 65 cars coming. And the Park District was, the city reached out to the Park District, and the Park District was willing to work with the city on potentially utilizing their parking lot for events. Thank you. Other dual-use potential is our vendor corridor, like I had mentioned, and our open lawn space. Our open lawn space certainly could be for amphitheater seating, but also drop-in soccer use or things like that. And then our shade, shelter, and seating as well, programming that differently is certainly an option. Yes?
The vendor area, that vendor area, is that for tents only, or are there vehicles option?
It's intended for tents. It can be for vehicles as well. The way that we have it kind of costed out is that it would take the weight of a vehicle if that's the type of event you have. You'd certainly need to program it a certain way so that there's not that cross of vehicular and pedestrian at the same time, but that's just an event management item.
Keep going.
Okay. All right. Other special events, Prairie Fest. This slide just kind of captures the current use that you already have, the 2024 location being at 229,000 square feet, and how that relates to this site now, including utilizing the parking lot that the Park District owns. Special events like the car show is certainly popular. How do we utilize this space? So certainly the parking lot that we put in there can be configured differently. Cars can, about 25 parallel parking spaces can fit in there with lots of room to walk in between, or 38 angled parking spaces. So that is certainly one spot for them. They could also be on the lawn or along that vendor corridor where tents or food trucks can be. So there's multiple spaces where everyone could be. When it comes again to the car show on the lawn, I know that there's a couple concerns on moving throughout. How do we balance pedestrian and vehicles moving if they wanted to leave earlier? Again, I think it's just goes back to management of the cars themselves. If they want to be on the lawn, that while a event is going on or a band is playing, they want the lawn spot, they need to wait till the event is over and then they could leave. It'll just take some management of that for safety. So we took all of those pieces to EMG. They came back with a few of their recommendations, so I'm going to go through some of those right now. The option 1 was always the amphitheater at the north end. Option 2 is a consideration of the amphitheater at the south end. Their performer staging area and designated parking was one of their primary concerns. How do they get people to the stage, and how do those vehicles interact and get there? So making sure that there's room for pulling up and parking next to the amphitheater itself in either option. So in one, it would be directly as close as you could get to commercial in that blue box. Option 2, if the amphitheater was at the south, we'd need to have access for vehicles to get to the amphitheater themselves. That would certainly, we'd need to beef up the vehicular access to the south. but they preferred that location. Thank you. All right, another thing was accessibility and parking for one truck and trailer, about 50 feet long, so accommodating that space in either option. A designated parking area next to the amphitheater, so it wouldn't interfere with pedestrian traffic. So just designated parking was really the forefront of their mind. And up to 10 performer and support staff vehicles closer than the current parking lot. That was certainly their want. And then certainly designated parking area to the green room and to the stage to roll up all their equipment. Other things that they had requested or recommended was vehicular access for the car show and the vendors, specifically designated area for the car show participants that doesn't interfere with pedestrian traffic. So again, that vehicular pedestrian concern. Designated areas for vendors during the car show specifically, along the vendor corridor, and the ability for car show participants to come and go during events without disturbing the event or interfering with traffic. So this is where they were challenging or recommending us to take a look at the plan. How do we get vehicles to move while the event is still going on? And then the amphitheater location itself, their recommendation is to consider the amphitheater layout as is along the north with an optional alternative flipped closer to the south. They were certainly along the lines of the south was the preferred location to help separate that pedestrian vehicular movement. All right.
Carielli?
I missed this before. On the top diagram, the blue area, would that be a parking lot then? Or
We need
instead of
to-
green space?
Correct. They wanted designated vehicular parking closer near to the event space. That is what they're recommending.
Alderman Woods? Art Woods?
Who is they?
The entertainment management group, yes. So that could be various like traditional parking lot, or we did talk about potentially them being more of a grasscrete, so it can hold the load of a vehicle, but in daily use, it looks like lawn.
Alderman Messina?
If I'm understanding option 2, which is the south, they're recommending essentially a parking area in and around the stage?
Yes, or on the side. It really hasn't been decided exactly where. We need to further develop how that looks. But if we have something towards the south, we would need some kind of either hammerhead or loop drive to get the vehicle and the truck around. So likely the building would need to move a little bit so that, that would be back of house.
Alderman Artie Woods?
Can I ask who solicited the opinion of EMG on where the stage should go and when that meeting took place?
So yes, the staff, after we had, compiled the final plan, we wanted to make sure that it worked for the people that were going to be using and programming the site. And so we did share that with them in April, I believe. And they came back with, these are things that, we would recommend. And, as Maria, just to kind of highlight and kind of condense that's a lot of text. They really liked the amphitheater on the south location so that it would back up to the train. They liked it on the south too because you could make this sidewalk an actual driveway, and all of their equipment could be driven down behind the stage. They also would like some sort of parking lot that would still need to be designed if you guys are interested in it, next to the amphitheater. That isn't something we see a lot, but it would be convenient for them. Specifically this 50-foot long truck and trailer. And so they did want a parking area for up to 10 vehicles closer to the amphitheater, wherever it ends up, and so that all of their, the performers and such could park closer. They were concerned about the cars being able to get out if somebody doesn't stay the whole time. Like if somebody comes and shows their car and they stay for part of the concert, but they need to leave early, how do those cars get out without interrupting the people watching the audience? And so what Upland Design did was, propose things like, well, this group, would leave up here. This group would go around this direction, and all of these would, come down this back path. So it's the same type of thing here. If cars were to leave from here, it wouldn't interrupt anything. If they needed to leave early from this location, everybody here would come out that direction, everybody here would go out that direction, et cetera. And if we used the purple, they would come down the back. So there are things that they are suggesting, and we're bringing them forward to City Council to see if you would like to invest in having those items designed. Because we can absolutely do that. It's just added cost.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. And with all due respect to EMG for booking the bands and love working with them, but I rember that design was going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars more to put the stage on the other side, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Am I speaking out of turn? Or?
It would cost more only because the infrastructure, the paths and things would need to be wider and accommodate some of that parking.
Right, all just to move it to a different side. Okay, thank you.
Just a question, did anybody take in consideration of the train noise with the amphitheater?
A specific sound study had not been done. We know that the train is a factor. So certainly, that's why we're kind of keeping the buffer along the train line. But as far as adding a sound wall or barrier or things like that, it just didn't, it's unavoidable. It's there. We're just working with it.
Would it be better for the amphitheater to be on the south side instead of the north side, to have in the back towards the train? Did they come up with anything like that? Did they suggest one side better than the other?
EMG was specifically looking at how to run the event. I don't know if consideration was taken on the view. Certainly if the event space or the stage was on the north end, you need to close Commercial Street to allow for some of that kind of backstage vehicular access, but it's currently closed as it is for special events.
Alderman Earl Woods.
A few things. So, one, I thought we vetted this out already, but as we continue to talk, we keep talking about driving traffic around on roads and sidewalks and stuff, which kind of completely defeats the purpose of creating the park. I don't go to too many parks where traffic's driving around through the park, right? And if a car wants to leave early, well, that's part of the rule. You stay there till 4 o'clock, till 5 o'clock. As I think you pointed out, that's part of the programming of the event. And while I appreciate Entertainment Management Group's opinion, unless they're putting in some money, making their life easier, while I can appreciate the suggestions, I think we've taken those into account in the first option of where it's at, and we can further address that a little bit if we need to tweak some things. But moving it to the other side, backing it up to the tracks with the unknowns. So you have a noise issue, you have a vibration issue, you've got it pinned up against the playground, so if parents are coming and they're watching the band and looking at the car while their kids are running over there, you got conflict between all those things. I just, again, I'll restate what I stated before. I think where it's at is the best location for it, and moving it and incurring more cost, creating more traffic, circular traffic through there, creating more conflict, raising noise and vibration issues, because those are issues. The cost issue, now we got because that's where the bathroom's at, so you got plumbing, electric, all the utilities are gonna, I'll stop talking. It's not a surprise I'm not in favor.
There.
So EMG wants complete turnaround and for their trailer's there only for Prairie Fest. That's the only time, and they're not gonna be able to swing that motorhome around no matter what you do in that corner. And it made me a little nervous. You're telling me cars are gonna be in that purple spot and they're gonna be driving out and whatnot. I thought the car show was gonna be pushed farther to the west, away from the concerts, because, you know, those cars, they wanna get out. When the concert starts, they start moving. Yeah, again, either way, I'm not preferential to either side. That's why, when we talked about this, I said, well, we have a concerts this summer, we can do 3 and 3, see how it is, but I envision a lot of problems on the south side. On the north side, the band's coming in and out. We always close that street off already, because a lot of people are gonna be coming over there, and you have to have some kind of control. I don't know what the right answer is. You lose part of the park, because I think I said it the last time. If you do it on the south side, you need probably, what, minimum 15 to 18 feet wide, and there's no cars gonna be turning around. And even with the food trucks coming down, let's say we have a food truck night, you got them pulling in, well, are they backing out of there then? Or they don't have a turnaround either for these food trucks. I'm just trying to think of the problems that could happen. And the other thing is, you got a lot of trees and everything, and I've asked the council, so are we ever gonna move Prairie Fest back over here? We've got this new pavilion and all this stuff. Are we moving Prairie Fest back? Because that's gonna change the landscaping if you start doing Prairie Fest over here. And I know that's not gonna be decided tonight. The pavilion, I'll tell you, I like the pavilion, right? But that's the Cadillac pavilion, right? They're the Ferrari pavilion, what do you wanna call it? When we were talking about it, we were just talking about some kind of amphitheater that was open. Alderman Sismarski just mentioned, I forget what town, did you say somebody just put one up?
Algonquin.
Where?
Algonquin.
Algonquin. Something more open. I know Downers Grove has something open, I heard. Not a full enclosed building. I asked the question last time. So if we're gonna spend this money in this building, who's gonna run this building or rent it out? How does that, I know it's brought up in the comments. If you're gonna start spending $4 million, I mean, White Oaks, the Park District's geared for all that stuff, and renting and putting staff and whatnot. The city doesn't do any of this stuff. Are we partnering with the Park District and doing a split on the proceeds of the rental, or, and, you know, we're putting up the building? What's the deal? What do we, and I don't know, maybe their building doesn't get used 52 weeks a year, maybe it only gets used about 30 times. Our goal here is to put up this amphitheater or pavilion or whatever and get people to come out there. What else are we gonna do other than six events, plus a couple movies and a fest? So we're gonna use it 12 times a year, and we're gonna spend $4 million just on the building. You know, we went from just a amphitheater pavilion, which I think would be nice. I mean, when we started buying those properties along Commercial, that was the whole idea. Now it's ballooned into something, you know, major. I'd like to get some answers before we start spending $4 million. What exactly is this building gonna do?
So we do get to that. We still have a few more slides.
Oh, okay.
We have actually some options and slides showing some of those open pavilions.
So I was looking, so at Streetscape, a couple of the members go, all right, what's bringing me to this park? What's actually bringing me here, right? Two of the members, and one of the members said, well, how do we, if somebody wants to start driving up, I mean, those kind of crazy things happen all the time. we're actually leaving drive lanes open, so it's not like cars can't get up there or whatnot. But those are some of the concerns. I was just reading through all the stuff. I'm just curious, but go ahead, I'll listen to the rest of the slides.
Okay. So those were EMG's recommendations. Later in the presentation, we ask you specifically, do you want to incorporate any of those? This slide covers the streetscape. This slide covers the streetscape meeting. They also reviewed this and had a couple of recommendations. And I'll turn it back to Maria. We can maybe go through these next couple slides quickly.
Yeah. So the other, when we reached Streetscape Committee, we went through the entire presentation, or the pre-final master plan. Some of their recommendations that, there were two, expand that prairie. So in the blue box, you could see instead of, we removed the formal garden, expanding the prairie, so it's just not open space for a low kind of, low cost. And then adding some sort of park signage, or maybe it's that hashtag WD as well, as a marketing effort at the end. And then the other option that they were recommending was expanding that vendor area eastward. So it's not just a loop, but as you can see, expanding that loop on either side of that open lawn space. Those were their recommendations brought forward.
So for the second one, if I may jump in, the vendor area expansion, that was taking these 8-foot sidewalks and making them how wide, Maria?
At least 11, if not more. So it would match the kind of other vendor corridors. So it'd be 11 feet for the vehicular, and then for the parked items, and then 8 foot wide for the rest.
Yeah, so the purple area, you're talking about the food trucks. So if everybody's in, if you're having a food truck night, right? So they got to be there for the whole night or the whole weekend or whatever you're doing, right? And you can't get out because technically you're boxed in if you're in the middle. And unless you're at the back end, you got to back out, or the first truck can pull out, right? That's, you're in, because I've seen these food trucks. They come in, it's not a really good night for them, or somebody doesn't like what they've got that night, and they're hitting all the other food trucks and they leave. So
It would need to be one of those managing the expectations. If you have those spots, you need to stay
Right.
for safety. It could also be tents for craft fairs or things like that. Maybe that vendor area specifically just for tents. There's certainly flexibility.
All right.
All right. So a little bit on the cost estimate. This is the cost estimate that and phasing plan shown at the last PZB in March, with that 12.5 total cost and the total phasing over the next couple of years. We took that and after the March meeting, reduced it down based on our cost reduction exercise to 10.5. And again, in approaching this as a phased kind of construction sequence. So you could see phase 1 would totally focus in the pink, the amphitheater building itself, access to that, and some of the stormwater detention that we're going to have. Might as well do that for the entire site in the beginning, because it'll need to be done anyway. And then planning for phase 2 in the orange, the parking lot, and the other recreational elements, and partnering with that Kaboom grant, and I didn't mention, but also making sure that this is a strong OSLED grant for the, with the IDNR. So making sure that we have enough recreational components to help fund some of that. That's a $600,000 matching grant, so upwards of 1.2 or more. All right.
And it pops back to me. So,
Well, maybe I'll be jumping ahead here.
No, go
I
ahead.
was just saying, the elephant in the room, if we have 3 million over 3 years, and
Exactly.
phase 1 is 6 million, I got a lot of questions. So
That's why I'm
carry on.
jumping back in. All right, so we're at the point where we need to get some feedback and guidance. What Upland has done after, so this was the original cost estimate, the the 13 or the 12. And then after your cost-cutting exercise, we got down to the 10. Now, we also, when we created this updated chart, expanded it by a year. We extended the length of the program. We increased the phasing by a year. So we've got 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29 for the 10. So that was one way to make it possible. However, we've still got this phase 1 at $6 million, which is not probably. The finance director is looking at me like, yeah, that is more than we can possibly accommodate. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to walk you through just a couple of questions, and then we will look at some alternate pavilion styles and some options on phasing where we can get to a point where the finance director potentially says, with some tweaking, maybe. So I don't know if I'm going to get that, but I'm trying. So the first question is, do you wish to incorporate any of the streetscape recommendations? So that was expanding the width of those sidewalks, kind of interior, and adding some landscaping or prairie to the area that's open lawn next to the...
Mayor.
So when you start expanding the concrete area, we're in the wetlands or, right? We're going to have to mitigate and all that stuff, right? It's going to be increased mitigation, correct?
Increased detention capacity.
Detention, right.
Yes.
Okay, that's, right.
I'm seeing a lot of no head shaking, so I'm going to go with that unless somebody wants to speak up.
I just want to jump in before we go down this. While the plan presented is beautiful, you did a great job. I think based on economics and some conversation that we had up here, I think it needs to have another look at it and incorporate that. How streetscape, why do I want to go there? What's driving me? Alderman Messina, a skating rink. My request for soccer fields, I mean, you want the kids there, not just me or the rest of us up here. I mean, that's to drive family and kids up there, right? And everywhere I go, right, the beautiful part is volleyball's coming in, but maybe they would want volleyball to come and play volleyball outside. Itasca put one in, and it's amazingly pretty active and busy. So I hate to quote to build it and they will come, but the soccer fields, volleyball, hockey, seasonally a reason for families and kids to come there, which is also the reason I wouldn't put the amphitheater on the south side, right? Because again, the conflict with the playground, some people would come there, you got the shelter where you could picnic, you could have lunch or dinner with your kids, they could run around on the playground whether you're having a concert or a car show or not, and that would be a standard thing people did. You could have that open area where you're at, interchangeable ice hockey, soccer, volleyball could change with the seasons, eliminate some of the sidewalks or paths or trucks. If we want the food trucks, drive them to the outside, maybe just have the one that follows the road. I don't think that we're ever going to have 40 food trucks, right? We're not a big enough community for that. Even if we had a special event, I mean, 10 food trucks is a lot of food trucks. Right. You know, to get 15 or 20, I mean, that's huge. You got to be in Aurora or Plainfield or something, Naperville for that. Those things and those changes and those tweaks will also reduce detention, free up cash to make Mr. Brad happier, right? Also, in the conversation, looking at different structures for the amphitheater that would be more economical also would be something. So it's almost, in my opinion, it almost needs to be like a workshop with more information brought in to go, we looked at this is a grandiose plan, we kind of like a lot of the things, it got the creative juices flowing, so it wasn't without merit, I said we can take that information and augment that with some more information and some more future economic data to hopefully move forward. Nothing's going to happen, I would say, for 3 years anyway, based on that chart I was looking at. Even to start programming in the architects to start drawing it and saying we're phasing it, we'd still need to find another $3-4 million. So if we can do both, reduce while we're programming in the million a year, right, and condense that time frame, maybe we can come up with something. That's my spiel.
Thank you. A couple of those things we're going to get to. We will talk about the ice rink when we get to the final cost slide, because I understand, you know, there seems to be a desire for it, and the natural one is only $38,000 only. So I'm looking at any of the streetscape changes. I thought I heard no. So any of the EMG recommendations, do you want us to look at those?
Different locations.
Yes, no?
I guess with the EMG suggestions too, I mean, they bring up points that I wouldn't have thought of about, like the banned vehicle parking or things like that. So even if we don't specifically take their recommendation, is there room for when the vans come and drop off their, like, is there ample space for that without specifically making a parking lot or a turnaround or something like that? Like, where, those vehicles have to go somewhere. So where would they go?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I think, not to steal Ms. Springer's thunder here, but I think there's perhaps two components to that EMG conversation. One is there any interest in moving the amphitheater to the south? I think that's question A, that I think we would need to get some clarity on. I think I heard a few no's, but I think that's A. And then B is that parking element, but as has been stated a couple of times, we close off commercial anyways. So I don't think that that would be that big of a lift to find a way to get their cars close to the stage, since we close off commercial anyways if the amphitheater's on the north end there. So I think really for me, just looking at these slides, the paramount question is there any interest in moving it to the south? Which again, you'd have to do that roundabout, that turnaround, that hammerhead, whatever. And I think, again, going through detention capacity, offset, concrete, car movement, I mean, you're going to run trucks next to the playground. That doesn't sound very safe. So I think that might be, if Ms. Springer concurs, that would be consensus number one, would be north or south. And then from there, we can kind of address that parking issue, either the grasscrete or yardcrete, whatever you said, or even just kind of fine tuning the location of the pavilion after we get a firm design on it to accommodate that request from EMG. So like I said, in my mind, really north or south is question A, and then the parking thing can be tweaked once we've determined that, so.
So when we close the commercial street off, where will these, where will the traffic flow? Is the traffic flow going to go through all the neighborhoods? Down Center?
That's what happens now. That's what happens now.
We close it off now.
Right, because we have parking at the old bank right now. But when we don't have parking anymore,
Parking at the pool too.
where all the residents, all the, you know, people are going to end up parking and driving. They're going to go through the neighborhoods to get to the parking lot. That might be an issue with the residents because they're going to see extra traffic going through their neighborhoods. Go ahead.
So when we had Prairie Fest, I mean, when we had it here, people were parking in the neighborhoods. Yeah, you get some people complaining for sure. I mean, you get some people complaining where it's at right now. We get some residents complaining about how the parking works. You're always going to get complaints about the parking. The goal is to make sure it looks good, right? You want it to be good. You want a place that people could interact, use, and safe. I mean, to be honest with you, this past weekend, I saw a mom and her two kids over at the clock tower they were taking pictures by the fountains and the flowers and stuff. I mean, that's what you want. You want these people out walking and coming to the facility. The question is, and you said you're going to show us something, other amphitheaters or something?
Consideration, and ultimately, I'll point to, we'll probably eventually have to expand the parking lot out here.
Right. It's possible.
More cost down the road.
Right.
I guess unless, to your point, we'll get on, we're just going around Center Street.
Well, we close commercial.
Consensus on
Other questions?
Alderman Curley.
Was there a mention we're going to do an experiment this summer and do 3 concerts at the south and 3 at the north?
There was discussion at this meeting just a little while ago, and I thought
No.
it was no.
I brought it up last time. Nobody seemed to go for it, so to the north it is.
I would vote, I mean, I would like to see it the south, actually. I think the view from a spectator point of view might be better looking south than north, my preference only, but.
Okay. All right, if we're going to do that, let's see what everybody wants. I only brought it up because I was hearing it both ways. I'm just looking for the most preferential way. You guys want to try it? I see problems on both sides. You're going to have to work those out, either way.
Yeah, I agree.
Take a roll call on the north position.
All right. Who wants?
Art first.
Oh,
Got a question.
Thanks. Again, this is something we talked about, even if you were going to try to do the comparative, taking that cheap stage and moving it from one end of the field to the other end of the field is only going to aggravate the people that come every week. When we did move it, that was the biggest complaint, people dragging their lawn chairs across the lawn to try to get to the stage when we moved it further back in the corner. It's not going to be a fair representation of what it would be. And I'll go back to, if you put it up along the railroad tracks, not only do you have the noise, you have vibration. You're going to have foundation issues because of the vibration. It's going to have to be dipper. That was part of the issue that they ran into when they built the senior center, because of proximity to there's more water there. There's many issues besides whether you like north or south that go there. I mean, that's going to add, plus right up front, we're adding cost to it. Right, we're trying to figure out how to reduce it, and then we're going, well, let's put it over there because it's more money. And I can tell you, as sure as I'm sitting here, it'll be more money than what we think it is, because all those other things are going to need to be factored in that we're not even thinking about because of its proximity to the trains. I won't even get into the full scare tactic of the train derailed. I'll just throw that one in closing.
Oh, boy.
So are we going to do a roll call on north or south?
Well, just direction.
Direction.
There's no motion. We don't have to wait.
Don't
No.
have to.
So just call
Don't get
everybody,
the
Andrea,
direction.
and they'll tell you whether they want north or south.
Or just to investigate. Yeah.
Well, it's either north or investigate.
North or
I mean,
investigate.
I'm not
Yes.
saying I want it south, I'm saying I want to investigate.
North or
Okay.
investigate.
Okay.
Alderman
I just
Ar,
have one last before we, I'm serious, I think this will help. I hope it'll help. So, if there was going to be another location, why won't we put it up by the parking lot? I mean, we'd have to reconfigure what we did, but that's where we used to have the bands when we had Prairie Fest. That was the
Right.
corner that we had it in,
All the way back.
In the middle.
all the way back.
We
So-
had the stage on the street back then,
Correct.
by the pool parking
Now
lot.
you have access, if you want, you can wipe out part of the parking lot, everybody can park, everybody can be closed. That would, if you wanted to move it, and that was a place, then that would be the only other location that I would think of backing up to the center of that parking lot.
Fair.
Well, last year, that's where we had the stage. We had it on that far west side. I asked, how did it end up over there? And I believe the answer was because of the cars, right, trying the safety and all that stuff. And then we had to put in that separate lane because people were leaving through the kids. And EMG, I think, liked it there because they had all their they can park their trucks, right? Took care of that problem.
Yeah, that's what I
That- Listen, they're gonna look for what's convenient for them, but I can tell you right now, they bring in that 40-foot bus for Prairie Fest, they got no way to turn that thing around, they have to back it in or back it out, if you put it on the south side. And that's, like I said, that's one weekend of year, right, for Prairie Fest, and then the other concerts.
That's why I think the north is the preferred location, so.
Roll
With
call.
that, let's vote.
It's not Prairie Fest, you're gonna have apartment
Go
buildings
ahead.
going up.
Alderman Art Woods.
So is this a?
North, you want north.
North, I'm
you want
for north, whatever the other things were.
Alderman Currielli.
I'm for choice.
Pardon me?
I'm for choice.
You want
Choi- Oh,
Investigate.
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 Alderman Sismarski.
North.
Alderman Artie Woods.
North.
Alderwoman Ames.
North.
Alderman Carr.
North.
Alderman Messino.
North.
Messino, sorry.
Okay, that takes care of that.
Alderman Catalano.
In the middle. It'll keep the businesses happy too, because we're going to get a lot of complaints from White Cottage.
I don't think.
Okay, so the second
He wants
question,
north.
the second question related to EMG was, would you like us to expend some design funds? Because we're at the end of our project design fees budget. Would you like us to expend design funds on trying to figure out how to add a parking lot or circle parking area near the north pavilion, amphitheater?
Mayor.
So, right now, at Prairie Fest, I see the cars pull in, they bring their equipment in, and the cars then go park. Why can't they do that here? We gotta put in a parking lot. I think we were putting a parking lot at the water tower, that was costing us $500,000. Do we really need a parking lot for the bands?
Alderman Messina.
And yeah, to your point, sod is a lot cheaper. I'd rather replace the sod. You could replace the sod 300 times as opposed to the cost of the concrete. So I agree.
Okay, that takes care of that.
Okay.
Well, I
We're
don't
done
know.
with
Does
that.
everybody else have an opinion?
I saw that at thumbs down.
Okay.
I think that's,
Okay, so I think that was it for the EMG, unless I'm missing anything. Okay, so, awesome. We are done with number 1 and 2. Number 3, do you have any changes not related to cost that you did not like about this final master plan that we've presented?
Other side of the- There.
Well, I think everybody likes it, but
It's just cost.
we got the Ferrari cost.
Okay, we'll do that next.
You know, I see Brad giving us the evil eye, so I don't want to get Brad mad.
I was just gonna say, I think more conceptually, like, so we have the amphitheater pavilion at the north, we have the parking at the west, we have the park, we have the native area for detention. I think the more structurally is what she was referring to versus the, because that's, I think, the next slide or 2 slides
Yep,
away. So
or
I think just
8.
from a organizational standpoint, is that what the vision would be based on the.
Or if they don't like bags.
That's true.
Alderman Messina.
Just to confirm with the changes, because there's a lot of options, I just want to confirm neither option, whether refrigerated or natural, there is no ice skate rink in the revised option.
We can add it back in.
Well, I don't know about
In
me.
a couple more
I mean,
slides.
got to talk to everybody, but
Sure.
I just, is that what currently is,
Currently, it does
Yeah.
not show any ice arena.
okay. So if this is the form to bring that up, then I mean, I would at least ask, and I don't know if we could do a roll call, if no one else wants it, then,
We will get there.
okay.
Alderman Art Woods.
Was kind of the direction I was going in.
There you go.
Are we trying to get to an answer this evening to then go to our design team, go ahead and design this, and we're moving forward, which we don't have the money for? So
No.
So at the end of the day, when we get done voting and going add in and take out, are we giving direction to Upland, right, it took me a minute, to continue designing, or what do we do?
So there's probably about 10 more slides. I probably should have held questions until the end, because there's been a lot of questions about stuff we haven't gotten to yet. So we're getting there. And at the end, after we've decided what elements we'd like to cut, Upland Design will incorporate all that into a final site plan and cost schedule for our approval. And then we'll get to the point where with each phase, we'll figure out exactly what we want to do. That's when we'll get, for phase construction and design.
Good. So I'm all in favor of seeing the next 10 slides.
Okay.
But that last piece you said, so that means then we're going to incur more cost in them designing, because their design pieces, I thought you said they were like done.
So construction and design is really where we have engineers. There'll probably be some oversight or input from the initial design team, Upland, and they will be building out construction drawings, engineering for grading. All of that will come, and that's when we make those decisions. We won't be going through another site plan, master plan update.
No, but my question was that engaging Upland, right, they agreed to certain deliverables. We're at that point.
We're at the end.
As we go through this exercise we're doing now and going, add this, take that out, reduce the size of this, move that over, add a tree, reduce a tree, that's extra. Right, Upland, Upland's charging for that.
They're going to give us a final site plan and a final cost after this meeting, and then they're done with this.
After doing what we're doing, the fine tuning?
Yes, after we make decisions tonight. And we've made a couple.
All right.
All right.
Mayor.
So,
Sorry. So just to be clear, they're going to finish off this contract, and then if there's other design work, then there's going to be another contract with engineers and whatever.
yes,
Okay.
just like
Yeah.
we do with public works
This
projects.
is just to wrap up this side.
All right. So a couple more questions, and then we're going to get into all these little pavilions, so you know what's coming next. So do you want to go with that original open-air design? That would reduce $1 million. If you want to go to one of these amphitheaters that we're going to see on the next pages that are more prefab, you could save $2 million. So maybe we'll just leave those for the next slides. So number 2, do you want to eliminate the pavilion on the south side or not? It would save $400,000. If you're interested in doing the natural ice arena, though, it's kind of necessary.
That was going to be my question. So the ice rink was underneath that pavilion or around it, right? So that's, they kind of go hand in hand, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll,
So if the ice rink is something that will be added in potentially, is the pavilion something that could just be a phase adding? Because we're talking about spreading out the cost of it, so it's something that we could say potentially if we wanted, but later on.
I asked the same question to Maria earlier today. I said, can we plug it as optional? And yes, you can make it optional. You can remove it entirely. Maybe we'll put a pin in this until we get to the ice arena discussion, since they kind of go hand in hand. Do you want to change the playground surface? We would save $175,000. From the pour-in-place rubber to the engineered wood fiber, are those pieces or chips?
That's the wood mulch.
Yeah, wood mulch. Okay, I didn't see any takers. Okay, what we're going to show you next are the amphitheater options, and then we're going to show you a revised phasing schedule that we think could work based on the discussion this evening. So here are some examples. Maria, I don't want to steal your thunder, but you did most of these, right?
Some of them, yes. This
Some of
is one that we worked with the Oak Brook Park District on over at Central Park. This is a prefab shelter. They utilize this as an amphitheater. What we did to the prefab shelter was just add column wraps with stone, and then that back wall. So they still have a back stage and front of stage. A little bit more simple in design. Here's one that we worked on with Buffalo Grove Park District. This is actually their side shelter, but it can be used as another stage space with the different tiers. This one has a little bit more of that roof line that has that long linear prairie aesthetic to it. Here's one that we did not do, but again, something that can be done. Again, the column wraps, a different roof line, adding landscape as a backdrop instead of a full-blown wall. And here's another one, again, different aesthetic on the roof line, but creating those rooms between the pillars as a potential. And here's that Algonquin Park District one that was under construction right now. These are the 3D renderings of it. You could see the kind of stage behind it and how that plays.
I just want to note that there are two like storage areas on the wings here where things could be stored. And this one was suggested by Chairman Sismarski today, and so we went out and quick and grabbed some images. Yeah. No, I'm not clairvoyant.
So this was the initial amphitheater where the stage was more open in the front. And the enclosed spaces within, complete custom, not prefabricated with extra attachments to it.
So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just sharing the mic with you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I hope that's okay. So this is that initial open amphitheater. The reason it costs $3 million is because of the rooms we were included on the side, and those were a little bathroom, a janitor closet, another bathroom, and a little storage area. Now, it's open, and it has that same aesthetic, but it's $1 million cheaper. So that was my first bullet point. I said, do you want to go with this original design? It saves $1 million. If you go with some of these other ones that we looked at, or a different prefab that has yet to be designed with some brick, maybe in a brick shed or something, we could, or stone, we could do that. And then this is the one that we're currently proposing that is enclosed, and it has this folding partition that can close, and it's a 3-season kind of a enclosure. That's the one that's $4 million.
Mayor.
Can we go back to the one that had the bushes all the way around? I mean,
This one?
That's nice. A
It
couple
was a
more.
nighttime shot, I believe.
A couple more back. That one. I mean, I don't know if that's 40 by 30. I mean, even that's $1.4 million?
So what's included in all these prices too, is we know that, or we've heard that the initial phase is going to be the amphitheater. That's the desire of most. There's going to be some initial site work with that, including removals. I know Public Works is taking care of some of it, but not all of it. So we want to have a true cost to what the project may be as part of it. So the specific amphitheater might not be 1.4, but some of those costs are included.
And just to follow up, so any one of these designs, Algonquin, this one, I think the other one, we're going to raise this up 3 feet, it's going to, right, it's not going to be, because a couple of these were ground level, right, we want to make a stage, right, so that's the whole goal of this project.
Either way, it can be, like in the Oak Brook example, they use it as an amphitheater for concerts, but it is flat.
It's flat.
We could certainly, during design development, that in the next phase of this project, we could certainly have those conversations and what's desired.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Yeah, I think this one, option 3, is great. The Algonquin one, was there a cost estimate? Did I miss that?
Yeah, there was.
So-
No, Oh, it's not, sorry.
This one we're estimating to be about the same as the others, probably around $1 million.
Yeah, 3 would be my pick, but carry on.
Which one, Messina?
Oh, the
one we were just looking at.
So what about the bathrooms? So if we eliminate some of the stuff, is there a bathroom option?
So there is that prefab bathroom that would have 4 stalls, and then we will continue to bring in porta potties for the larger events, but there will be 4 permanent stalls, or as many as we can get with the funding, and it's about $800,000 to $900,000 for that. So that would still stay in the plan. Permanent bathrooms.
Where would that be located in the plan?
Sure.
It's not in the pavilion, it's on the side.
Yeah, it's in the.
Correct, it's kind of on the other side of
Over
the
there,
playground.
okay.
Right there.
Okay.
You had a slide of it too, you had a picture.
Yeah,
of it.
it's way back here.
Yep, right there. Oh, you finished.
That's good.
That was, so,
Yeah, that's perfect, okay.
So that would go right here, and that has remained in all of these because it's a priority.
Yep.
So, question on that bathroom. There's like a utility room in the back. Is that where staff can store, is it big enough, or is it just for the bathrooms or pipes or what?
It's more of a plumbing chase.
Pardon me?
To access the plumbing chase.
Right.
And I would say light storage, not where you're storing
Right,
lots
but
of things.
some barricades and certain,
Not as big as that, no.
oh, it's not,
We could do that in the one like Algonquin. There's storage on either side of the stage, storage rooms.
well, technically, you can move that wall out in the bathrooms 2 feet and make a bigger storage, since you're putting it up anyways.
It's a prefab structure, so it
Oh.
might be a little bit harder.
We could adjust the walls within a little bit, but the beauty of the prefab, they're more affordable, but less customization is allowable.
I don't think we have a lot of storage stuff, so.
I think our
Public Works
Director of Community Relations would disagree. We do need some on-site storage. All right, so we get back to, is the group willing to go with a less expensive open design, kind of like the Algonquin or the other ones on the other side?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Then, oh, I'm sorry.
Brad says yes, too.
So what we've done here is we think this is a possible workaround. This shows 1.4 million for the amphitheater, because I was hoping you would get there. I wasn't being presumptuous, I was just hopeful. And we've added another year. So we've added year 0, which is this year, and we would do some, the design, right, Maria?
Correct.
A little bit more design.
Does that design cost the same even with the prefab stage?
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. And then this is a 3-year time period, phase 1. But we're able to bring that down to 3.5 million, which is very close to the 3 million we have budgeted for over the 3 years. The finance director has said we can possibly do, the detention and the grading in the first year, and the amphitheater in the second, or vice versa. Yeah. And so, and then we have the next phase coming over 2 years, and then we have a future phase where we plug in some things that, are kind of optional. And so by spreading this out over now 6 years, we're able to bring the cost down to 7-8. Now, that's assuming we keep the little pavilion structure on the south side. If you would like, we can add back in the natural ice arena for $38,000. What's included in here is a potential sponsor assistance. We did speak with representatives of our local bank, and there may be an opportunity there, there may not be. There's additional information they need from us, we'll continue to work with them. But we are hopeful that we are going to put together a package that can be shared with potential sponsors if they're interested. And if we do get additional money, then perhaps we can do things sooner or plug things in sooner.
Roll call for the ice rink, I guess? Are you looking for a roll call for the ice rink then? Or,
I mean, if everybody is sure, or raise of hands. It is not. I'm saying we would add in the $38,000.
Which one, though? Which one do you want to talk? The natural one.
Yes.
Alderman Carr?
Question about the natural ice rink. Can that be used in the summertime for the volleyball court as well?
Indoors, no.
Maria, I think it's going to go around the pavilion, right?
Correct. The initial design, when we did have it in, it was going around the pavilion.
I mean, the volleyball court could be something that we look at in the future if we get some additional funding. We could put it right here.
but that is giving it up there toward the street, right?
So why can't that be a universal? Again, you have to adjust, but soccer field, volleyball, and in the winter.
Talking about that where she's circling, or are you talking
This can
both of the
be-
parking lot?
This is where the soccer
Oh,
field.
we're talking about the parking lot, just, that's what I was, that right there.
I don't think this is big enough for
Not for
a soccer field, but this area is. For a U8 to
U8.
10?
So it's-
Yeah.
But again, if we reproportion, eliminate solid surfaces, reduce detention, right, the building's getting smaller, that coverage should get smaller, right? There's a lot of moving pieces. We should be able to work something out. That's all I'm saying.
Mayor.
So just, when you're talking about removing some of those drive paths for food trucks, is that what you're talking about?
Right.
Just
As
so-
I
okay,
said
yeah,
before,
yeah.
let's keep the trucks to the outside. I mean, we're spending money, right?
Right.
Crisscross patterns for walking and for driving, making them wider than maybe they absolutely need to be. Does a walking path have to be concrete? Is there some permeable option, right? That's what I say. So there's a lot of good ideas, but I think that if we fine tune them, we could get to where we want to go. We just need some reconfiguring or adjusting of the space. The parts and pieces are there. We need to just move them around the board a little bit more creatively to make them all work. And it would make more sense to me that if you had the hockey or the volleyball or whatever closer to the parking lot, that's where everybody's running there to pool, play, whatever, jump out in the winter for hockey or soccer or volleyball or whatever it was, that would be the one field, or flex area, we'll call it.
So I guess the question is, I mean, what Alderman Woods is suggesting would involve an addendum or an amendment to the contract with Upland to redesign it. And so,
Well, wait a minute.
Mayor.
So, me? So, technically, really not redesigning, you're changing the drive lanes for those food trucks to sidewalks. And I think I mentioned it once before, why do we want the food trucks in the center? Why can't we keep them on the street? I heard a couple different reasons why not, but you can put the food trucks on the curb. Commercials close during events, so it's not like we have traffic.
so we could change all of those sidewalks not to be vehicle bearing. That would save quite a bit of money on the paths, but that would mean really the car show would have to happen in the parking lot. Because if it's driving over any sidewalks that we have, they'll crack. Because they're just built for pedestrian use. I mean, we can do that, certainly. And eliminate some.
Again, the thing that you brought up is relevant, but another thing, it's an issue that we could solve for, right? So if you're telling me that we're going to enter one spot and we gotta drive over the sidewalk for 10 feet of the sidewalk, we could make it heavy-duty sidewalk so that they could get, that's where we're absolutely gonna have the car show. My problem, or my issue with locking into all these squares and pieces is I know that this is gonna change. 2 years from today, you're gonna go, car shows are no good, nobody goes to them anymore. And I'm sitting here talking for hours about car shows and racking up dollars and cents. The one thing I do know is I wanna drive families from Wooddale and the surrounding areas and kids to that park and have things for them. So while I appreciate the car show now, I don't know if the car show's there in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe more, the craft shows are back again. That's it. The farmer's market's a big thing again. There's a lot of changing pieces.
Along with that seasonal, could they keep that up all year as a rollerblade and, what is it, roller hockey, whatever, rollerblading? I don't know if anybody does that anymore, but.
Inline skating, yeah,
Instead of
certainly.
taking it all down and just drain it and let them.
I was gonna say, I'm piggybacking off Alderman Woods' comment, like, just take a ride to Lilac Park if you've not been there. Like, to me, it's not a bad problem. My kids, we were all thrilled. It's not a bad problem when it's so packed and you are walking to something so cool as that. And there is walkways there. There's nothing jaw-dropping like 20-foot vendor pass. It's legit landscaping and park areas and a little, probably $10,000 little fake Santa thing. Whatever they did, God bless them, because it was mobbed, it was packed, and people were not freaking out to go walk a block because it added to the excitement. So I can't imagine, I mean, that is pretty basic stuff there. I can't imagine that cost them $8 million. I'd love somebody to figure out with them what they did and how much they spent, because that to me, I wish I could pick that up and just put it here and we would have saved 90 minutes.
They have, it's a smaller area, and they put in landscaping. It's been there a long time, so all of that landscaping is mature, and they've done things over the years to make it that way.
Just not to cut you off, but we could do that too.
Yes, which is why we've...
Which is kind of where I was headed. I promise I won't shut in. Maybe.
Okay, so at this point, I want to remind everybody that this plan, it's like a comprehensive plan. So as we go through and build things, that's when we make the final decisions. This is, hey, we think there should be an open amphitheater at the north side of the park. We think there should be a park area with a playground and some games so we can get an OSLAD grant. We think there should be, seating areas and a pavilion on the south side that has a natural ice rink around it and a parking lot at the west side. That's what this master plan is, and that's where we're trying to get to the final point of, okay, we've completed that exercise, and now the next one is we're going to design phase one, and that's going to include these items, and so that's when we're going to figure out what the pavilion looks like, and that's when we're going to figure out how thick the paths we want and where they're going to be. We don't have to build them all. And so, et cetera. And so what we're trying to get approved is like a big vision of what we'd ultimately like it to be, and it doesn't mean that we're bound to it. And we want to approve some sort of pricing schedule so we can figure out our capital budget planning for future years. And so that's what we're trying to achieve with this segment of the planning process.
So, in that phase one, whatever you want to call it, is the entryway on Wooddale Road, is that in there, or is that, I can't really see the...
South side to purple.
It's the purple
Okay.
is the
Right,
phase
no,
one
I get that, so the entryway is gone.
entry.
No, the entryway, the little arch there, yeah, right.
If you wanted to include it, again, this is all flexible. If we got to
Right.
phase one and you
Okay, no,
said,
I'm just curious, I just want to make sure,
need
because
that?
I can't see it on the
oh, I'm
screen
sorry.
there, up there, so.
Yeah.
That would be part of Phase 1.
Oh, that would be part of Phase 1. Yeah. So, for me, the priority's always been the amphitheater, pavilion, whatever you want to call it. If we get the bathrooms and the other stuff in there, it's great. Some storage. Not a lot, because too much storage, people accumulate garbage.
So at this point, knowing that we're going to come back and visit these things, I think we're at this final recommendation point for this evening where, because we can't do this one because we're doing some cost-cutting adjustments. And so, and we're doing it without these included recommendations. So really, it would be a motion to improve the master site plan in accordance with, you know, the proposed budgeting plan of $7.8 million. And then that with that recommendation, Upland would go back, revise the site plan and to include the open pavilion and some of the other changes we talked about this evening. And we'd bring it back for final approval in July. And then we would launch into the Phase 0. Does that make sense to everybody? Does everybody have any questions?
Mayor?
So are you just saying that if we pass something tonight, we're giving Upland another contract? Because
No.
No. Okay, just.
They're just finishing
the
up
way-
this contract. I'm
Right,
sorry.
I'm just making sure the way you were saying it. Okay.
Because when we get to Phase 1, we need to figure out what that team is going to look like. And so we'll be getting proposals, and if that's what you would like, or we can go with Upland and they can hire subs. It's, you know, there are options.
Right, no.
Alderman Woods?
So is the rink?
Include the rink in the motion.
Okay. And
So it's really just, yes.
one more, so are we gonna then, not because I'm doing nothing, is Upland going to then, because we're gonna go to the smaller amphitheater, adjust the detention? Because there's like 3 or 4 spots on that site that are designed for
Only the one centerpiece
only the one centerpiece.
is the detention. The others would just be flat prairie or landscape instead of just lawn.
Oops.
Okay.
That was that one in,
All right, thank you.
so, yeah, it's just this area right here that is, which is the detention.
Sorry.
Mayor?
When you say detention, you really didn't have like a detention pond. You had a sidewalk in between there, a bench, or a couple benches.
Correct.
It's not
Yes,
like
more
a-
of a passive prairie area
Looks
that
like a-
also carries stormwater.
Right, because if you get rid of concrete, you need less stormwater, so.
Correct. It would just be less shallow, or it would be more shallow.
And can we look at permeable concrete? Would that help us?
Permeable concrete?
Yeah.
Permeable concrete, a couple of years ago, was more of a trend. Lately, we've seen that the cost of that and the maintenance of it really doesn't perform as well.
So that's a no?
Unfortunately. We could look at it.
Mayor?
So we're looking for a motion.
A motion for Plan 1?
13A.
13A.
Where am I?
The
Sorry.
$8 million plan.
A recommendation for the approval of a master site plan.
Option.
It's not really an option. It's reflecting the proposed, the $7.8 million plan with the ice rink, the natural ice rink.
Mayor?
So moved.
So, okay, we're moving away from the full enclosed, the $4 million building. Are we picking one of those, are they gonna give one of those couple designs? Are we picking one of those tonight?
So
so we can get some pricing, or not? We're
So-
not there yet.
you go ahead. I have an answer, but I don't know if it's going to be the same as yours.
Right now, I think it's worth exploring that during design development in the next phase, since there's various options. A lot of the ones that we presented have similar price points, and we could further refine that as we get quotes and actually reach out to prefab vendors and that. That's what I would suggest.
So all of the slides that are shown are examples of other things. So she would put those 2 slides of examples on the pavilion page, and then we'd have, during design, that's when we'd decide what it's going to look like. That, for example, that arch, it's just an example. We would still have to design what the Wooddale one looks like, and that comes during design development.
Well,
Randy's making that motion that was voiced.
I'll make a motion to move forward with the modified plan in and around approximately 7.8 million. That includes the modifications to the amphitheater and includes the ice skating rink. That would be my motion.
Second.
roll call.
Should I repeat that, because my mic was off? Are we good?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Alderman Artwoods.
Yes.
Alderman Currielli.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames.
Yes.
Alderman Artie-Woods.
Yes.
And Alderman Catalano.
No.
Okay.
Motion carries.
My
Items-
apologies for the length of this. I should have just started with this slide, maybe?
No question.
Okay. Lesson learned.
Items to be
Thank you again.
referred. All right, next phase, items to be considered at future meetings. Thanks for your presentation. Anyone have any items? Mr. Carr?
I'd like to bring back on the agenda, future meetings, mountain chickens back, 4 or 5 chickens for people.
No. I don't do this.
We don't need a roll call, right? It's just-
I was just wondering,
No.
do we
You need a
need
second. You need, you need 2 people,
Okay, I'll second that. For the
And-
discussion.
and then it comes for
I don't
discussion.
think that's.
Okay.
Yeah,
City
usually,
politics, that's more than just city.
I'm sorry, I can't
Chickens
hear you.
in metropolitan area, pretty sure there's other, that's just not our.
A lot of municipalities do prohibit chickens and other fowl, but there are some communities that have specifically adopted regulations to allow chickens under certain circumstances, such as a certain number, how they're housed, that a rooster is not, permitted, and that type of thing. And
Bring in the pigeons again, you bring everything else
pigeons,
back, and
pigeons are allowed if they are racing pigeons or courier pigeons, and they have a license for them.
all right.
It's a state law.
Need a motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, I'll call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. Let the minute taker note that the same elected officials and city staff are present. First, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 8th, 2025.
Second?
Any comments, questions, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Report and recommendation. I'll start by making a motion to expand the City of Wooddale rat mitigation program throughout the entire city of Wooddale. Mr. Lang, Director Lang, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. So we initiated the rat mitigation program here in Wooddale last year, and it was in response to some concerns raised in a specific area along the alleyways along Irving Park Road. So when we opened up the program, we kind of limited it to that target area, kind of in Ward 4 and the very northern portion of Ward 1. Since that time, we've had some sightings in some other areas of the city, so the council decided to bring it back to look at expanding it citywide. We'd also be looking at a recommendation, as we've had some interest from HOAs and how that would look if they were to take part in the program, and how the council would like to see that happen. So, open it up for discussion.
Alderman Currielli?
Has the program been successful?
So far, we've had 14 participants. One has elected to stay on. They have the option of staying on with the contractor on a monthly agreement past the initial 3-month period. I haven't heard much more about new sightings in the original target area, which I suppose is a good sign. Now we're hearing them pop up in the other areas, so maybe perhaps they're migrating to other areas of the city. But I haven't heard any negative feedback with the program. I think those that have used it have been pretty happy with the service.
So you're saying there's been no feedback?
Minimal feedback. Sometimes no news is good news on the rat front, but no new concerns raised about sightings. You know, everyone who has raised a concern has gotten on the program, and then I haven't heard that there's still an overwhelming problem in that area.
So they're continuing on the program?
One person has, of the 14, has continued with the contractor. So I don't know if the others have gotten other contractors or if they no longer have a problem, so they decided that they don't need the service anymore. I don't have that
I mean,
information.
the HOA really wouldn't be relevant because just the homeowner who wants to participate would be a part of it, right? They don't have to involve the HOA setting a trap, or is that because the HOA regulates putting a trap?
Yeah, I mean, with an HOA, you have the common areas, which they are usually responsible for the maintenance of. So if we wanted to, we could just make it available to the individual unit owners. They would have the same guidelines as the program. If the HOA wanted to take on like a larger project and place some stations throughout the common areas, we would have to decide how that kind of looks. But if at this time, we just want to leave it, you know, for the individual unit owners to take part of it, just like any other property, we can do that as well.
That's what I would personally say, Mayor.
So do we use up all the funds that we had in for the original program? And
With the last fiscal year, yeah, we were close to our maximum. I think we budgeted for about 15 properties, and we had 14. So far this year, we have no new applications, so we haven't used any of this year's budget yet. But if we open it up citywide and we get close to that number, we might have to come back and request a budget amendment.
Any other questions? Alderman Woods?
Yeah, since this came up, which I was shocked when it first came up, but then since I've done some rat study, that with the project I'm doing in Bensonville as part of their permitting process, I have to do rat mitigation to do any excavation. So any sewer work that's done there, any water work, any foundation excavation. So I was talking to some people there and then looking into it a little more. That along with O'Hare being active again, digging up, you know, for the expressways for 490 and all the other things going on there, adjusting the railroad tracks, looking into the habitats. While we might not see it now, I would say that the probability exists that it could get worse as they disrupt that, and Bensonville's on the front line fighting, and a lot of people are in the program over there. They're just going to follow, the railroad tracks, Irving Park Road, the greenway trails, sewer lines, water lines, right, stormwater detention, flared ends, you know. So, and they can proliferate pretty quickly. I don't want to go through all the birth rate. I already burdened Alan with this whole spiel earlier. But I would say it would be a good thing to expand the program, put the money up there. If people feel the need, I'd rather be proactive in this case than to wait a year and find out, again, with their ability to proliferate exponentially, you know, a year you could be overrun. I mean, that's how bad it could be. So if we expanded the program to a wider area, I mean, I think that would be a good thing.
And you said we have no participants yet this year, so we don't need to change the budget as of yet?
Yeah, as
Just
of
leave-
yet. If it gets close to that cap, then we'll come back and request a budget amendment.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Mays?
Is this just for residents or businesses partake in this as well?
Businesses can partake in it as well, yeah. Businesses are required, especially food services are required to have rat mitigation as part of their COC occupancy. But we haven't had any businesses partake in the program yet, but it is open to them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, since we're not spending any new money, just all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next, approval of an agreement between the City of Wooddale and Compass Minerals America Incorporated for the fiscal year 2026 bulk rock salt purchase in an amount not to exceed $64,418.90. That is my motion.
Second?
Director Lang. I'm assuming the same as,
Yeah, taking part in the DuPage County joint bid again this year. The price per ton actually came down about $3. We have the same allotment as last year, 700 tons. We're required to purchase at least 80% of that, and we can purchase as much as 130% of the same unit price.
cool. Any questions on this? Roll call, please.
How much fits in the salt though?
It's designed to fit 1,000, but that's with a conveyor, so we, practically we store about 650 tons on hand.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Art Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Currielli.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames.
Yes.
Alderman Artie
Yes.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
And that passes. Last, approval of an agreement for Metra parking lot resurfacing project. That is my motion. Director Lang.
Thank you. So we had the bid opening on this Tuesday, which is why we issued the revised packet, and there was 9 bids received, good turnout, and the low bid was $671,079.54 from Schroeder Asphalt. We've worked with them before in our patching program. They do a good job. The project will take place over 2 phases this summer, so half the lot will be open at any given time. So resurfacing the lot, doing some ADA improvements, some curb and gutter removal and replacement, and then new pavement markings.
Any questions? Alderman Sismarski?
What's the average attendance? Do we have a number on that? I know it's down. I know it's way down, but.
I know it's down since COVID. It hasn't come up to pre-COVID years, but I don't know the exact figure.
I know, Ms. Springer actually just got those numbers last week. The ridership Metro was at 234, was it 234 a day? Weekly. I mean, every day. Every day. But Metro estimates about 234 riders per day out of Wooddale. Right.
Any other questions on this one? Alderman Currielli?
What's the consequences if we delay this project for, say, 2 to 5 years?
The asphalt obviously continues to degrade, and you wind up having to do more base patching, which increases the cost. If we let it go too long, we'd have to do a full reconstruction, which can double and even triple the cost.
When was the last time this was done?
You recall?
Ballpark?
I know who the director was the last time I was here, so, Kramer, yeah.
12 years?
No, it was about 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago?
Good.
Yeah, 10 to 12 years ago, yeah.
Any other questions on this one? Roll call, please.
Alderman Art Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Currielli.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames. Alderman Artie
Yes.
And Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
And that passes. Items to be considered at future meetings, Illinois 19 Central Avenue signalization this summer, Water Tower 1 reconstruction this summer, Hawthorne Avenue sidewalk also this summer. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
To call the Finance and Administration Committee meeting to order. The minute taker note, the same people are present. First, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last Finance and Administration Committee dated on February 27th, 2025 and April 24th, 2025. Sorry? Mike. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That passes. Report and recommendation, the Scale Cluster Server Upgrade. Mike, I could pass that to you.
Yes. So we have before the committee request for our Scale Hyperconverged infrastructure upgrade. Currently, our equipment's about 7 years old. We've recently taken some failures, and our vendor has indicated that it's end of life. So
The server?
yes, so it's a hyper-converged cluster. So they recommend replacing the current hardware with new hardware. So that would then get us 5 years of maintenance for hardware and software support.
Any questions? Mayor?
So the whole cost of this is $70,840, is that?
Correct.
Okay, that's for the hardware.
Hardware and installation, there are some installation, internal installation time on my part, but they do remote installation, but the shipping, and then I'll debox and then rack, pull out the old hardware.
Right.
Install the new hardware and migrate.
Alderman Sismarski?
You said that's for 5 years? Is it-
Yes, this will be a 5-year hardware and software maintenance included with the hardware purchase.
What's the downtime during that transition of taking down the existing server and putting up the new?
The beauty of the Hyperconverge is we currently have one server that was purchased right before I started, so that server would stay in place, and then I would sunset the old servers, put in the new servers, and then migrate. And the Hyperconverge, it'll migrate automatically.
We shouldn't anticipate any downtime or
No.
any disruption, I guess?
Yeah, but I'll schedule it probably for a weekend cutover. So, just to be
Would that
safe.
impact things like the portal, like the permit portal, things like that? Or I guess I don't know what those power.
Yeah, so it powers the whole city infrastructure, so it's our Munis, Tyler Munis.
Tyler, all
ERP.
that good
Yeah.
stuff, okay. So to your point, we would do it on a weekend, like 9 o'clock, so that no one's likely filing a permit virtually or trying to pay a ticket, so, okay.
Correct, yeah.
Any other questions? I think we had a motion. Did we have a motion, or is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Make a motion.
Okay, second. Yeah, Mike.
And Nadine, thank you.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Artwoods,
Yes.
Alderman Messina,
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski,
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames.
Yes.
Alderman Catalano,
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Carr,
Yes.
and Alderman Currielli.
Yes. Great. And that passes. Next is Azavar, Professional Services Agreement Addendum. That be Director? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Director Wilson, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, what you have before you this evening, as titled, is an addendum to the agreement that was entered into with Azavar back in 2018. Functionally, that agreement is over because their audit of the city's utilities, boundaries, et cetera, has been completed, and the clock on that has run out. However, the relationship still exists, and since we've never technically terminated the agreement, we still have an active agreement with Azavar. And so this would be an addendum to that, the scope of which is really in the payment terms in Section 3A and B. Unfortunately, their lawyers have said I can't say a whole lot about this. I guess the buzzwords that are in here are net metering project and the calculation of the municipal utility tax in certain cases. Yeah, so basically, their attorneys want to approach the concept of net metering as it relates to the municipal utility tax. And what they're doing is they're trying to get the entities that have existing contracts with them to sign on to this project. Because, I mean, let's call it what it is, they don't want to have their attorneys do the work and then they don't have any way of recouping their fees in this.
So just, I know you and I
So-
talked about this prior, so the idea is they go to their customers, they get sentiment, understand like, hey, is this what our customers want? And then, based on that, they would put in the time and the effort to put that forward in front of ComEd, or, yeah, ComEd.
Yeah, state legislators, it would have to be state at the state level, correct, yeah. And I guess the beauty, if you will, of this is since it is a contingent basis, a contingent fee basis, aside from potentially that $1,000 for a lobbyist if they need that, if this goes through and they change the legislation and there's no impact to Wooddale, bad news is we don't necessarily get any additional money out of it. Good news is it doesn't cost us anything. If they go through and they get to change this legislation and there is a decent impact to Wooddale, then we would receive additional revenue. They would get their share of it per the agreement, but then we would be, money ahead, if you will.
The goal would be to bring this forward in hopes that they don't need to go to that extent, that legislators say, oh, wow, we see this, there's an overwhelming amount of people in favor, we'll go ahead and do that. The only reason we would pay the $1,000 is if they didn't agree to what was brought forward by ASVAR.
Yeah, so basically, ASVAR has stated that would be a lobbyist to try to garner, public support, if you will, for their position in Springfield. If the entities they're negotiating with weren't amenable to it in the terms of their agreement straight away.
Then they would engage the lobbyists, which only then would we pay that money, that $1,000.
Correct.
Got it. Well, Mayor?
So, when you mention legislation, I get nervous. What are they looking to do?
Their attorneys have said I cannot say that in public. I can only express that in executive session per ASVAR's attorneys.
So maybe we should table this to next week.
Is that a motion?
I mean, it's not going to be final till next week anyhow, so maybe let's move it.
Suggested motion?
Can't make a motion.
We can make a motion to approve, but it won't be final till next week anyhow. So we can pass it and then next week, or fail. Or if we pass it next week, we can make the final decision, because I'm guessing there's some legal stuff that you'll talk to Pat about if this moves forward.
Yeah,
so we can go into exec and then adjourn, recess, and, okay.
Director Wilson.
I would say, because I know the answer to the question, but again, their attorneys have stated that
no worries. No worries.
They don't want it in the public domain at this point.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so being that there, I guess, essentially could be a cost, maybe, I guess we should do a roll call.
Alderman
Oh, wait.
We need a motion.
Oh, sorry. Is there a
I'll
motion?
make the motion. How's that? All right, I'll get the ball rolling.
Second. All right. Roll call, please. And this is simply to progress this forward, this agreement forward for consideration to next week before attorney review and exec session. Director Wilson?
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Art Woods.
Yes.
Alderman Currielli.
Yes.
Alderman Messina.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
Alderman Sismarski.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames.
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods. Yes. And Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
That passes. Report and recommend, items to be considered at future meetings. There are none. Does anybody have any? Great, then I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Oh, is there a second? Second. All right, meeting adjourned.